Okay, let's get started. Let's take a comfortable seat, whatever that is for you, whether that's butterfly, cross-legged, legs out in front of you, whatever you feel you need to be. Let's take our Jan Mudra, simple thumb and index finger, and just rest the hands down onto the knees. Just let the shoulders roll away from the ears. Let the elbows become soft and heavy. The wrists are relaxed, and you're just lightly touching the index finger with the tip of your thumb. And the other three fingers are nicely outstretched, but there's no tension within Ajahn Mudra. Maybe you like to close the eyes. Maybe you like to take a soft gaze. But relax into the forehead. Soften the area around the eyes. And let go of the tension you might be holding into the jaw and the teeth. As the facial expression softens, you begin to find a steady inhale and exhale breath through both nostril channels, breathing equally through the left and the right, and really begin to focus on this breath. So making sure that you breathe equally in, both nostrils working together, and breathing equally out. So just observe and focus on your nostril breathing. As you begin to settle into a rhythm, notice where the breath travels to. Notice if it's just into the forehead, into the brain, into the upper body, or does it go everywhere around the body? Does it go to the hands? Does it go to the toes? Does it go to the torso? Notice where that breath directs to. And on your exhale breath, notice the full breath leaving the body. So notice what happens to the body as you breathe out. So it's simply an observation of where the inhale travels to and how you feel as you breathe out. If your mind wanders away from your breath, return back to that observation of inhaling and the exhaling. Take a deeper breath in and just exhale, letting go of that observation of the breath, just breathing normally. And now take your attention into the rest of your body and just give yourself a body scan today. Notice any parts of the body that you feel tight, tense, you're gripping. Try and relax into those areas a little bit. And prepare the mind and the body for our yin practice and movement. Releasing the mudra, opening up the palms, wiggling fingers, stretching into the wrists, circling and rotating. Circling into the shoulders, bring them forward, up, back and down. And just a few times. And as we work through our postures that you have expressed as your favorites, as your least favorites, but also the ones that you want to improve upon, we start with an inversion. And this is our dangling pose. So you can always use your bolster to support the head in your dangling posture. And just come to standing nice and slowly. Take the feet nice and wide, hip width here. And if you've got that bolster there, you can always just simply rest the head and let the arms hang down in front of you. If you like, you don't need to use the bolster, but come into that full dangle, ragdoll, and let the head, the neck, and the body soften over the legs and thighs. So really allow yourself time to settle into the inversion, reminding yourself of that inhale and exhale breath through the nostrils here. You can take hold of the elbows here if you like a deeper release, or the hands might just drop down to the mat. We're here for a couple of minutes, so if you do start to feel a little bit dizzy, just bring the head up in line with the heart, resting the elbows on the thighs. Reminding yourself not to force the stretch of the spine and the back of the legs too much at this point of the practice. We are just beginning. Nice and slowly to come out of the posture, just release the hands in front of you, bend the knees. And just gently keep the head down and just drop to the knees and find tabletop position. So leveling out the head with the heart, pressing into the tops of the feet and the shins, just finding neutral tabletop there. Find the breath, breathe in through the nostrils, and just take a moment to come back into a soft and gentle child's pose, bringing the hands underneath the forehead, relaxing the hips back towards the heels. Nice and slowly lift the gaze, look ahead and slide all the way onto your belly, into prone. Relaxing hips and the pelvis down. And just bring the head back onto the hands again. And when we come into these prone postures, just allow everything to soften and relax out here before we come into Sphinx. So maybe you choose to widen the feet a little bit and bring the forearms out in front of you. Fingertips are facing forward and the elbows might come underneath the shoulders, opening up the chest, relaxing the shoulders away from the ears and soften through the facial expression once more. Remembering where we started our practice, to relax in the forehead, the area around the eyes, the jaw and the teeth. So feel here that the legs, the pelvis and the hips become heavier and heavier. And the upper body becomes lighter, more open. And there's a little bit of strength needed to support you as you press into the palms and the forearms. Returning back to that nostril breath and the focus of making sure the left and right are breathing in equally, and it's an equal inhale to an equal exhale. Take a deep breath in. As you breathe out, widen the elbows, roll down through the belly and the rib cage. Bring yourself back into that relaxed prone posture. Head comes to the back of the hands, big toes touch, relax and soften everything. So I'll give you an option for the next posture, which is half frog. You can, of course, use your bolster for your leg on half frog, or you might just wish to take the leg out to the side. So if you're using your bolster, make sure that the knee and the shin and foot are all the way up onto the bolster, and you can lower yourself down. Or you might like to, as I say, take that half frog without the use of the bolster and just simply take that 90-degree bend at the hip, knee and ankle. So here, dropping through the pelvis and the hips once more. Central area of the body becomes very heavy. If you wish to increase intensity and add a back bend, then come up into your Sphinx. Dropping through the hip as much as you can. You don't have to come up into the back bend of course of Sphinx. You can stay with the half frog, just working with the hip. And for the last minute of the posture, again, I'll give you this option, is to extend the leg from the knee. So reaching the heel out to the side, a bit tricky for me. I've become a bit of a cropper with the chimney. So that left or right leg, whichever you started with, becomes straight. And try and soften through any of those muscles. Try not to engage. Again, keeping that hip dropping down. A little bit different feeling if you are extending the leg on top of the bolster. So you might feel that as more of an intense inner groin, inner thigh stretch. You can, of course, come down from the Sphinx with that straight leg. Slowly bend at the knee, bring the leg back into center and relax out into prone. Give the hips a little shake side to side and then come on to the other side. Again, choosing your option, whether you're choosing to use the bolster. That does help with the release of the hip. Making sure there's a 90-degree bend at the hip, the knee, and at the ankle. And if you took the Sphinx option on the opposite side, always best to equal it out and take the Sphinx option on this side. So you're trying to get the chest flat down on the mat. Leg is out to the side in half frog. Try and keep the shoulders nice and equal. We're not dipping on one side than the other. And choosing the option of coming into that last minute with the extended leg. So you are simply extending the leg from the knee. So the leg comes all the way out from the hip. Toes are facing the same way you are. And drop down if you need to from the Sphinx, if you don't wish to have the back bend. Try and soften through the glutes as much as you can. Try not to engage any muscles into that extended leg. And slowly bending at the knee, bringing that heel back in line, and the leg comes back into relaxed prone. Big toes touch, sway out the hips, give yourself a little shake. So let's just pull back into tabletop once more. Hands come underneath the shoulders, come into neutral first of all. And then release the belly, open the chest, breathing in for cow. Exhaling, rounding with the breath into cat. Slow this down, releasing into cow and rounding into cat. Twice more, really focusing on the breath and the movement together. And release back, hips to heels, child's pose. Head might come to the back of the hands, or you might stretch the arms forward. Melting the belly, the chest down between the thighs. And just start to roll up through the spine. Take your time to bring the head up. Let's come into tadpole pose. So bringing the big toes to touch, knees go wide. If you're on a hard surface, you might like to just turn sideways on. So tadpole is a seated variation to our frog. So big toes are together, knees are out, and the spine is nice and long. So if you can, try and tuck the toes underneath, so they're on the tops of your feet, so you're not on the toe beds. And try not to let the spine arch and the belly drop forward. Tuck the belly into the lower back. Relax through the facial expression and find that nasal breath to observe. Really feeling that the pelvis and the torso are taking the weight downwards. Try to soften as much as you can into the glute and the hip area. Bring the hands forward and just lift the knees. Bring them together and just come down to prone once more. This time we work on a half bow. So the right hand sweeps back to take hold of your right foot. If it doesn't quite catch the foot, use a strap. Wrap the strap around the foot or the ankle, and then lift the hip, lengthen the hip flexor downwards, and then pull the heel in towards the buttock. Or there's another variation where you can pull the heel in towards the outer hip. So that's a slightly different feeling. See which one works for you. I tend to go for the heel to the buttock rather than heel to hip, but you may prefer that. So you might be starting to feel the quadriceps stretching here. Take the breath into those areas of tightness. Nice and slowly, let the hand release, let the leg float down. Take a moment to bring the head back onto the hands and just feel the recovery into that right leg. Taking left arm back around to take hold of left foot. Again, choosing the option of foot coming in towards the buttock or heel to hip. Lift the thigh, lengthen the hip flexor away, and then exhale, pull the hip flexor downwards towards the mat. And nice and slowly release the hand. Let the foot float back down. Allow that moment of recovery. And whilst we're down here, sweep both arms back around, take hold of both feet if you can. If you can't quite meet them, just reach for them. That's okay. Lengthen the hip flexors and just take a moment to come up into a bow pose. So holding for 5 breaths, breathing in and exhale. Breathing in for 2 and exhale. Slow deep breaths, breathe in for 3 and exhale. Breathe in for 4 and exhale. Last breath, breathe in and exhale. Roll down, turn to the cheek, let the hands fall by the hips and just sway out. Bring the hands underneath the shoulders, push back to tabletop. And find that neutral tabletop first of all, and then just a round of cat and cow. Let's find our dragon. So bringing the blocks in if you need them. You can of course use your bolster as well underneath your back thigh. It's always nice support. So right leg comes forward. You can have those blocks on any level. And just a nice, simple release in our dragon. You can, of course, stay upright, or you might like to come down onto the forearms. Try to relax into the hips and the glutes, the hip flexors, the hamstrings, and the quadriceps. Allow gravity to let your body become heavier and heavier. Remind yourself of that nasal breath, breathing in equally through left and right channels of the nose. Notice where the breath goes to on your inhale. And let go on the exhale. And let's take that deep breath in. Exhale, prepare to move, bringing the hands back up onto the blocks. If you are down on the forearms, come back up to upright and just gently pull the hips back towards the heel, stretching through that front leg just to release out the hamstring. Take that leg back nice and slowly, and then change sides. Bring left leg forward. And again, choosing options that you took on the opposite side. So we're holding most of our postures today for about 3 minutes on each side. It's important to really feel this nasal breathing, making sure the left and the right channels are working efficiently together. And we're trying to find balance between the right and the left sides of the body as well. And maybe this is the posture that you wanted to improve upon. Maybe this is the one that you enjoy. Maybe this is your least favorite, but whichever it is, just notice how you feel here. Take in the sensations, take in the experience. Allowing your inhale to feed the body, allowing your exhale to release tension. Nice and slowly take that deep breath in and out. Preparing yourself to move, coming back up onto the hands if you chose the forearms, coming up to upright, dropping hips a little bit more there, and then gently pulling hips backwards, straightening out the front leg. And carefully bending at the knee, sweeping that leg back, and just come back into tadpole. So widen those knees, bring the big toes to touch, and sitting upright. Well done. How are we feeling? So let us come into a seated twist. So bringing the right leg out in front of you, left leg comes over, and you don't have to bring the heel up towards the thigh. You can keep it down by the calf if you like there. And neither of these legs are engaged, so we're not flexing the foot of the extended leg. But we're going to take that twist, and maybe just simply the arm goes over, or you might like just to hold the thigh. And we are holding this one for 3 minutes, so don't go too deep too soon. It is a gentle spinal twist. And the head might simply look forward towards the extended foot, or it might look to the side of the mat. And if you want to stretch into the neck, you can look over the back shoulder. Come back to the observation and the focus on the nasal breathing. Inhaling equally left and right channels. Noticing where the breath goes to. And using your exhale to release tightness, tension, gripping. Maybe deepening the rotation. And nice and slowly taking that deep breath in and out. Preparing to move, coming back into center. Extend the leg out in front of you and just release over the legs. Give yourself a little wiggle room, releasing the flesh. And just release into the spine. Let the head drop down towards the knees. We're not here for 3 minutes. This is just a recovery. Slowly rolling up through the spine. Head comes last. And then crossing over left over right. So again, getting that belly free of the thighs so it's not all caught up, and choosing your option with the arm, either straight arm, bent arm, or simply hugging. And then choose your option with the gaze, looking towards the extended leg, looking to the side of the mat, or looking over that back shoulder. So maybe closing the eyes, internalizing the sensation, focusing and observing on that nasal breathing. And these twists are not forced. They are easy spinal twists, held for 3 minutes. Breathing in to lengthen the spine, breathing out, deepening the rotation maybe if you feel that you would like to increase the intensity and towards your edge. Just a few more breaths here. And breathing in, breathing out. Bring yourself back into center. Release the legs. Lift the arms up. Give yourself a big stretch this time. And up and over the legs. Give yourself that wiggle room as you recover from the twist. Letting the head release to the knees. Slowly rolling up through the spine. Our peak pose, which is our frog. So choosing your options. If you're on a hard surface, you might want to just double up the mat underneath your knees. You can, of course, use a bolster to rest your chest on as well. Widening the knees out to the side and make sure that you've got that 90-degree bend at the knee, 90-degree bend at the ankles, the toes are facing over to the sides, and you might simply rest the body all the way on your bolster. So making sure that the head, chest, and belly are supported. We're here for a full 3 minutes, so make sure you're comfortable. And again, gravity is a key one for this. Really relax everything here. Deepening the intensity, working towards your edge is simply coming off of the bolster and bringing the arms down to the mat. Maybe the chest comes down. To come out of the posture, breathe in and breathe out. Prepare the body to move. So just pushing yourself back up onto the hands. Bring the big toes to touch. And then pull the hips back towards the heels. As if you were going to come up into tadpole. And then slowly bring the knees together and come to kneeling. Well done. Let's go down onto our backs for fish pose. So choosing your option once more, using either the blocks for supported fish or a bolster. Bolsters are obviously much more comfortable, but if you can go with the blocks for your fish, then you're going to be bringing the block in the center of the spine and supporting the head with the higher block. Arms come out to the side of you, palms face up, and you can choose butterfly if you like, or you can have the legs along the mat. So throughout the practice, we've worked a lot onto the left and right, a lot of hip work, inner groin, outer hip, hip flexors, hamstrings, thighs, but also back extensions, so the sphinxes, and also the twists, and forward folds. The dangling was a forward fold, as were the seated forward bends. So here gravity becomes your friend once more as you really mold yourself into your prop. Making sure that the rib cage molds itself equally either side. And returning back to that nasal breath, inhaling and exhaling of equal length and equal channels left and right. Take a deep breath in and a deep exhale out. Bring the hands to the thighs if you chose butterfly. Let the hands lift the feet and the legs up to constructive rest. Knees just drop in towards one another. Gently lift the head and then press into the forearms. Slide across to one side and take your props away as you roll down all the way into Shavasana. Take a moment just to feel that there's nothing underneath you apart from the earth. Feel all points of contact of the back body. Draw the knees in and roll and massage out. Notice how the spine and the hips feel as you circle the knees round one way and the other, maybe opening up the hips and releasing into the hip joint. Last posture is IT band stretch. So the right leg goes over the left and the heel rests either by the knee or by the hip. A little bit deeper by the hip. You can place that foot on a block if the foot doesn't quite meet the mat, but you're working that knee away from you and opening up the chest and the arms up towards the sky. Try to relax into the right hip, the right outer hip, particularly the glutes, around the inner groin area, around the hip flexor, so relaxing all of this area around here. Try to make sure that that foot is firmly planted and all 5 toes are down on the mat. Take a deep breath in and out. Gently release that top leg. Come back into the center, realign the hips and the spine. Constructive rest, drop the knees in towards one another, toes turn in, heels turn out. Last posture, last side. Left foot comes over your right knee. Maybe place that foot on top of the block, but try and get all 5 toes down and then just start to press the knee away from you, dropping through the left hip. So you're trying to bring the left hip down a little bit more. And for this last posture, last side, return back to that nasal breath, focusing and observing on left and right channels, breathing equally. Notice where the breath goes to, where does it travel to, and what happens as you breathe out. Taking a deep breath in. Deep exhale out, releasing the legs, bringing them back into the center. Knees come together, constructive rest pose, soften everything. Heel toe into parallel, draw the knees in, roll and massage out through the spine. Do what you need to do before you come into your final relaxation of Shavasana. Make sure that you're nice and warm, putting socks, jumpers, blankets on, eye pillows, and maybe using the bolster underneath your knees if you like. And maybe a blanket or a block underneath your head. And as you now find your way into Shavasana, corpse pose, it's the end of your practice. This is your reward for all of your work. This is where you let go. This is where you let go of thought, let go of distraction, let go of any engagement and tension within the body. And maybe it's a time to return back just to focus and observe on your breathing. I'll leave you for the last few moments of the practice in silence and let you know when it's time to come back around. Beginning to find some deeper breaths, breathing in and out of the nostrils and bringing your awareness back into your surroundings, into your space, onto your mat and back into the body by wiggling fingers, toes, choosing to stretch or draw the knees in. And always taking time to awaken from Shavasana, never rushing to get back up. Bringing the hands into Anjali Mudra at heart center once you have returned to seated. For the last few moments of your practice, just return back to this nasal breath, breathing in and out equally through the left and the right channels, breathing equally in to an equal out. Notice where the breath goes to, where does it travel to, and what happens as you observe the exhale breath. And noticing how you feel, how the mind, how the body responds to practice today. And always thank yourself for showing up, for giving yourself this time. And I thank you.